From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Coming up tonight, can the supply meet the demand? How an Arizona utility company is working to make sure customers are safe and don't lose power.
Plus, those who work outside in triple digits, how do construction workers complete their projects while also staying hydrated?
And a $30 million grant to help the city of Phoenix redevelop public housing.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Victoria Valenzuela.
And I'm Renee Muhammad. Thank you for joining us.
We could break another record today when it comes to heat. On Monday, the valley reached a high temperature of 115 degrees, setting a new record for July 23rd. And today we're inching toward that number again. Today's record is 116 degrees, which was set 4 summers ago. An excessive heat warning is in effect through tomorrow evening.
When it gets this hot, it takes plenty of energy to keep your air conditioning units working. APS could be on the verge of setting an energy record. Emily Richardson explains how they're able to keep Arizona's energy running.
APS calls summer their Super Bowl because they spend all year preparing for the increased energy usage and increased stress on their system.
This is really game time when we think about how do we operate the system in a fashion that's going to make sure that we can provide just that reliable, affordable electricity.
In June of 2017, APS broke long-held energy records with an energy peak of 7,400 megawatts. And this week, having 3 consecutive days with highs of 115 degrees or higher, they believe they may break the record again.
We want to make sure that all of our customers are safe and that they have the power that they need, and you can go ahead and leave that to us.
According to Jeff Burke, the Director of Resource Planning, APS began planning for this approximately 5 years ago.
How do people use electricity? How many people are there going to be in the valley? And therefore, how much electricity do we need in advance? And then we go out and either build or acquire those resources. We're part of what you call the energy imbalance market. That's a 5-minute real-time market where we trade with a number of our neighbors.
APS has people working in the imbalance market 24/7 to balance the supply and demand of energy, because energy is a service that cannot be stored and needs to be immediately used.
They're here all the time making sure that supply and demand is balanced on the electric system.
APS says we use approximately double the amount of energy during summer than we do during non-summer seasons. In Phoenix, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
We're likely facing the hottest temperatures that we'll see for all of 2018.
Jordan Daphnis is here with a look at the current numbers.
We're currently seeing 106 degrees, which is more than our anticipated high for today. Here in Phoenix, we were expecting a high of around 114 degrees, but we went above and beyond so that we could match our record set back in 2014. Now, our record in 2014 was 116 degrees. Now, we're not the only ones seeing record temperatures. In Japan yesterday, they hit their all-time high of 106 degrees. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Jordan Daphnis.
With the excessive heat, you have to protect your pets too. When it's this hot, animals can succumb to heat stroke. Make sure to keep them indoors. Unlike humans, dogs can sweat only through their foot pads and cool themselves by panting. Never leave an animal inside a hot vehicle. Temperatures can quickly soar in parked cars, and a dog or a cat can die inside within minutes. Avoid hot pavement. Asphalt temperatures can climb to over 150 degrees, causing pain, burns, and permanent damage to paws. The heat has forced the Arizona Animal Welfare League to close its doors today and tomorrow. This is only the 3rd time in the shelter's history that it's closed to the public due to excessive heat. Today, employees are focused on keeping the animals safe and cool. The shelter will reopen Thursday afternoon.
To avoid the heat, a lot of us jump from air-conditioned building to building. But for some, being outside is their livelihood, even during record-breaking high temperatures. Reporter Nicole Hernandez went to a construction site where heat precautions are in place.
For construction workers building the Loop 202 expansion, almost no day is considered too hot to work. That makes staying aware of heat illness prevention and symptoms especially important on days like these. The Arizona Department of Transportation gives its workers many tools to stay healthy.
neck towels, cooling towels, sunshades, 1 per water, electrolyte drink, so replenishes body, and sunscreen.
Even though these products won't necessarily keep someone cool in the extreme heat, they can keep people alive when paired with awareness.
Every Monday, we have an all-hands safety meeting, everyone on this segment.
This week's safety topic, heat stress.
Buddy system, watch out for your buddy. Know yourself. If you start feeling these symptoms, we go through all of that, then tell somebody. Don't just try and keep working.
Some construction sites can reach 15 to 20 degrees hotter than the ambient temperatures, meaning days like today can reach upwards of 130 degrees. And with this being ADOT's largest highway project, that means about 1,000 people are working in these conditions.
During these hot summer months, we actually adjust some of the work schedules. So we have construction occurring much earlier in the morning.
Sometimes as early as 5 a.m. to avoid working in the hottest parts of the day.
Hey, we work outside, we have this job, and do the little things to get you home safe. All of these are just one of those little things.
In the 2 years that the South Mountain Freeway project has been under construction, no one has had a heat-related injury. In the broadcast center, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
About 40 million people across the country are dealing with an excessive heat warning or heat advisory. In Southern California, the heat is bringing an increased threat of wildfires. California's power grid operator has also asked customers to voluntarily conserve energy.
Californians are being asked to ease off the air conditioner and other appliances during the time of peak power usage from 5 to 9 p.m. Residents are looking for ways to beat the heat during this advisory.
It's hot. It's really hot outside. And air conditioning.
I just kind of wanted to watch a movie.
The seats and the air conditioning.
What are the seats and
recliners? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for the air conditioning as well. It's pretty hot out here.
The alert to conserve goes through Wednesday night at this point. And the alert does ask that homes keep their AC to 78 degrees or higher. Tomorrow's temperatures around Los Angeles are expected to be in the mid-90s. And this heat wave isn't helping our air quality. The Arizona Department of Environmental Quality has already issued a high pollution advisory for tomorrow. Ozone is an air contaminant which can cause breathing difficulties for children as well as people with respiratory problems.
The Trump administration and the ACLU have failed to agree on how much time parents should have to decide on whether to seek asylum after they're reunited with their children. In a court filing today, the Justice Department said the administration proposed a 4-day waiting period. That's 3 days shorter than what the ACLU wants. The government says that the longer waiting period would increase costs and occupy limited beds. The ACLU argues parents need the time to discuss whether to seek asylum with their children, lawyers, and advocates. The administration faces a court-imposed deadline of Thursday to reunify more than 2,000 children. Today, President Trump spoke about his trade war. While at the Veterans of Foreign Wars National Convention in Kansas City, President Trump talked about his decision to impose tariffs and not to listen to his critics.
I said, we're going to have to tariff your cars. They said, when can we show up? When can we be there? Would tomorrow be okay? No, folks, stick with us. Stick with us.
The Agriculture Department has announced a $12 billion short-term plan to help U.S. farmers hurt by retaliatory tariffs. Agriculture officials say the plan will not require congressional approval.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions made a speech earlier today in Washington, D.C. to the Turning Point USA's High School Leadership Summit. Sessions spoke about college campuses and what he believes to be limiting free speech.
Whether you realize it or not, and I think most of you may, freedom of thought and speech on the American campus is under attack today. Of all places. The college campus should be where debate and discussion should be appreciated, honored. But nowhere has there been more arbitrary and capricious restrictions on free speech than in the supposedly educational institutions of this country.
Today marked the second day of the 4-day conference for conservative high school students. Other speakers will include Secretary Betsy DeVos and President Trump. Spring training brought a lot of tourists to the state of Arizona this preseason.
So what did that do for our economy? Well, coming up next, how the Cactus League impact was a home run for Arizona.
Plus, how a $30 million grant will change the lives of people living in low-income housing.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia.
From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. The 2018 election season has arrived. Join us for primary and general election debates. Right here, meet the candidates and hear their positions. Arizona Horizon, your source for what matters most this election season. Only on Arizona PBS.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Governor Doug Ducey is calling for a ballot initiative that would end legislative immunity. The desired measure comes after an Arizona lawmaker was pulled over for speeding earlier this month. Representative Paul Mosley was caught on camera bragging about speeding to a sheriff's deputy. Mosley was not cited because of immunity. Ducey says that the legislative immunity needs reform and he hopes to see it on the 2019 ballot. The governor signed an executive order last week ordering state troopers to cite lawmakers if they break any traffic laws.
One Valley neighborhood is getting a makeover. As Jordan Daphnis reports, the Edison East Lake community in Phoenix just received a huge grant that they hope will improve the community for many years to come.
Around this time last year, residents in the 75-year-old low-income neighborhoods of Edison East Lake were worried they would be facing a funding cut. Today, they received a $30 million grant to help them revitalize their neighborhood. Martha Ortiz has lived in the Sidney P. Osborne neighborhood in the Edison East Lake community for more than 15 years. To her, receiving a grant is about more than just money.
This community means something very positive because we're seeing communities together, not divided. So that means that all the residents were going to work together to make a difference.
The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is responsible for awarding the grant, and they say they too see it as an opportunity for the community to come together and grow.
You're going to see residents be transformed. I think that the amount of job opportunities that this grant will provide, education, healthcare, I think you're going to see a group of residents that are in public housing become more self-sufficient.
The city says it plans to use the funds to replace the 577 existing housing units and will add more than 1,000 new mixed income units. The grant will go beyond housing to improve the look of the community, enhance transportation access, and improve park safety and infrastructure. Martha Ortiz was active in all of the meetings and events leading up to the earning of the grant, and she says that has had an impact on not only herself, but her children and grandchildren.
They all want to graduate. They want to keep going to school, especially my grandkids. They're seeing that they have a grandma that is involved in all the projects for the future.
The other 4 states to receive this grant include Baltimore, Maryland, Flint, Michigan, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. In the Broadcast Center, Jordan Daphnis, Cronkite News.
This year's spring training baseball season was a big hit for Arizona's economy. An ASU study found the Cactus League generated an estimated $373 million this past season. That's about $50 million more than last year's Final Four, but far behind the Valley's last Super Bowl. The typical league visitor attended 3 games, stayed 4 nights, and spent a median of $405 per day. 6 out of 10 fans traveled from out of state. This year's 233 spring training games drew a total of 1.8 million fans, with an average of about 7,000 per game. California ranchers are losing workers for their most important date.
Coming up on Cronkite News, as young people pursue different work, why this spells bad news for the date industry.
Our state is facing extreme heat. Stay tuned because later in the newscast, I'll let you know if there's any relief in the future.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
Devastating fires outside of Athens, Greece have killed at least 50 people. The blazes started on Monday and have injured more than 150. Authorities say 26 of the deceased were found huddled together in a compound. Other bodies were recovered from the sea where victims had fled to escape the flames and smoke. The fires that broke out yesterday were the deadliest to hit the country in decades. Greece's prime minister has declared 3 days of national mourning.
Colorado is experiencing major flash flooding and mudslides after thunderstorms pummeled the Front Range of the southern Rocky Mountains. While the storm took place west of the Denver area, the major city is still experiencing its wrath. According to the National Weather Service, nearly 2 inches of rain fell within 15 minutes, causing road closures and damage to local businesses. Officials say that no injuries or deaths have been reported, although they did have to make some rescues.
Over the past week, firefighters in Phoenix have rescued 5 people hiking in the mountains. 4 of the distress calls were for heat-related symptoms. Crews were sent to Camelback Mountain, Pima Canyon Trail, a trail near Happy Valley Road, and a mountain near Dove Valley Road.
It's no doubt that the heat outside is the main topic of conversation today.
Jordan Daphnis is in our weather center with how long we should expect this heat wave.
We are in the midst of that excessive heat warning, and it's taking over a majority of the state, including the Grand Canyon. Now, the only areas of our state that are exempt from that heat warning are up in the northeast part. Now with all of that extreme heat, it keeps us warm not only during the day, but also in the evening. So let's take a look at our evening forecast. At 6 p.m. we'll still be at 114 degrees. 9 p.m. will cool down to 110, and at 11 we'll reach a low of 102 degrees. So not much relief in the evening. I start my day at 4 a.m. and this morning my thermometer said it was 92 degrees outside. So still very warm even in the early morning hours. What do the next 7 days look like? Tomorrow we're going to see a high of 116 degrees, Thursday 112. Our lowest temperature in the next 7 days is going to be 105 on Sunday. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Jordan Daphnis.
Data says that the demand for dates is increasing.
But the supply of workers is low. Coming up next on Cronkite News, see how date farmers are doing with what little workers they have.
I like working for Cronkite News because it gives us the opportunity to find a different angle on the same stories that every other news outlet is covering across Arizona. As students, we have the opportunity to cover issues in all across the state of Arizona.
It gives me a good chance to sharpen my skills, improve my skills, learn the techniques in a newsroom and in the programs and teamwork and technology, getting me prepared for the real world. And at the same time, I think we do a great job, make some great stories, do great journalism for the city of Phoenix and state of Arizona.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Exploring, it's the lifeblood of the mission.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Wow.
Just because an idea is crazy, it's not necessarily wrong.
We were on our way.
You don't get anywhere until you've tested the limits.
That carries an intensity you can't imagine.
You could hear people just, whoa.
Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
It's a rush.
We ask a lot of our heroes.
We are at a remarkable moment.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
California's Coachella Valley produces 95% of the country's dates, but fewer laborers want to work in this demanding agricultural field. Reporter Micah Bledsoe visited the date capital of the U.S., where working in palm trees requires skills like scaling ladders with machetes and hanging from palm fronds.
Even as industry experts say, demand for dates is increasing. The number of people willing to do the work is not. Pedro Medina has worked at the Flying Disc Ranch for 20 years. He pollinates trees and prepares them for harvest.
It's something that takes practice on learning how to get the job done. It's a bit difficult, dangerous as well.
Vince Sammons, an agricultural superintendent for the University of California in Riverside, says as older workers like Pedro leave their jobs, it's harder to find people to replace them.
As the older palmeros, as they kind of retire out of the business, there's not as many young people that are willing to, take their places.
From 2014 to 2015, the U.S. exported 14 million pounds of dates worth $43 million, according to the Iowa-based Agricultural Marketing Resource Center. Robert Lauer, owner of Flying Disc, says the industry is growing, but needs more workers.
We went from a few thousand acres in this valley to tens of thousands of acres. And then in Arizona, it's been morphing into a bigger operation too.
Salmon says date harvesting will have to be simplified by using costly lifts, making it safer and easier for palmettos.
And so maybe what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to look at more mechanization.
Reporting in Coachella Valley, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
When it comes to hydrating, most people go for a bottle of still water. However, sparkling water is now believed to be just as hydrating. According to a study, carbonation in water has little effect on total hydration. Experts found that the major difference between still and sparkling is that carbonated water may run through your body faster. Sparkling water can affect how much water is consumed. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics says some people may find bubbles enjoyable, while others get bloated quicker. Overall, experts say that flat water is better for exercise, while sparkling is better during leisure time.
For years, health experts have said that diet soda is bad for our health, but now it's believed to help lower your risk of getting colon cancer. Over the past 7 years, researchers from Yale Cancer Center studied around 1,000 cancer patients. The results found that those who drank at least one 12-ounce serving of diet soda were 46% less likely to have recurring colon cancer. The center urges people to hold off on consuming massive amounts of diet soda, but they plan on conducting more studies to better understand this discovery.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, the Cactus League is still an economic hit in the valley, and we'll hear from Katie Hobbs, a lone Democrat running for Secretary of State. That's the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, it's not summer break for everyone. We visit one school in Michigan to weigh the pros and cons of year-round education. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.